President Cyril Ramaphosa before he became president, but he already owned a farm there. I think that's where he breeds the Ankole.
It's very sad for me because during all this time with the land scam, he never once came there to try and intervene. And one would think that if he's a neighbor, we're all interested in keeping the area. And he never intervened or showed any interest in the area. And he watched from his farm how all these businesses collapsed. And that always, puzzled me, why somebody with an interest in the area with beautiful cattle wouldn't intervene and try and solve the problem.
Let's stick to Thandeka Mabuza a bit, because most people will never know the background. How did she come into the picture?
Well, she phoned me one day and, she warned me that she said she was Mabuza's niece, and she's the only person allowed in his study, and she saw a list of assassinations, and I was on the list. It appeared to us that the whole scheme was to create this false affidavit, and then either to charge me, she disappeared. Either to charge me for treason and say, look, I've fabricated this and I drew it up. Alternatively, to draw me to a place like Millie's and then assassinate me. What Ernest & Young discovered was that Visagie was the architect of the land scam, but he was acting for politicians. And what they would do is they would buy the land inflated, make these large, obscene amounts of money up front, and then they would rent the land back for nothing. And the people actually didn't benefit from it. They just became slaves working for Visagie. And he rented the land. He never paid them. But he also made money from subcontracting it out to bigger companies like McCain's. So it was a fraud in every which way you looked at it. It was designed to enrich a few people at the expense of the majority.
Okay, welcome to another episode of The People's Eye. Today our guest is Mr. Fred Daniel. He is a conservationist and ecotourism entrepreneur. Well, I might have left out a lot about you, but when you speak, you'll tell us more. He was a resident of Mpumalanga province. The reason we're here is because recently the Pretoria High Court awarded him about 306 million rand in damages. The case started when he settled in the Badplaas area around 2002. He bought land, or rather farms. He wanted to build a big 5 nature reserve and other ecotourism projects. But along the way, politicians came in. They tried to, or rather, let me say, not they tried to. They actually started a campaign to get him out of Badplaas. Destroyed his business. They organized people to march. They destroyed his fences. And then government officials from the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency joined in, and they frustrated him a lot. He had to eventually leave the province because of the hostility that he experienced. And, this was a big loss for the province, not because of this lawsuit that he recently won, but the economic loss in the area, because what he was trying to build, and some of the CEOs of the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency have confirmed, was something big, something that was going to benefit the province a lot. Fred, welcome to the People's Eye podcast, and thanks for making time.
Thank you, Sizwe. I appreciate being on the podcast.
Thanks a lot. Maybe let's start from the beginning. When you came into the Badplaas area, if you can briefly explain to us, what did you intend to do? I've explained it briefly, but you can go into details. Obviously, the first time you landed in the area, you started buying land for your project, but then you came across a problem and a big land scam in the country. which the country should thank you for exposing as well.
Well, if you remember, I think it was September 2004, you wrote the article in the City Press that made headlines, South Africa's own land grab. And that's really what was happening at that stage is politicians targeted the land reform funds, and they inflated the prices by up to 2,500%, which is really disgraceful. And ever since then, they've been trying to cover up the scandal. But in the judgment, it came out very clearly that this was a land grab. And that cost the area dearly, in conservation and tourism. And as Advocate Heath, or Judge Heath, estimated that the damage was at least 35 billion in lost foreign exchange and tourism. So we're talking about a significant damage. But what really hurts me to this day is a beautiful Masoli village that was destroyed because of the corruption. And where Songamvelo and even Nkomazi and Travelport finds itself, all these projects have been destroyed. They're a shadow of what they were. And the Masoli village is completely destroyed. I mean, it had massive potential.
So when you came into the area, obviously you mentioned the Songamvelo, Masoli village. And I think there was a project to combine that game reserve with the game reserve in Swaziland and so on. And when you came in to invest in that area, you had an idea of adding to what was already happening there.
Well, all we did is we fitted into the government's planning studies. And the government identified that area as the seventh and the last Transfrontier Park with Malolocha and Songamvelo, and then maybe with Mozambique. So it was identified through government studies, independent studies. And we just fitted into that bigger vision and the bigger picture.
No, I was speaking to the former CEO of MTPA, Jacques Modipan, who says it was a marvelous plan when he saw it. But now, before we go into details about that, your business, the business that you were doing there and how it was destroyed, let's talk about the land issue. You came there, were buying farms, and then there were groups of people, and then that's when the name of Thandeka Mabuza came up, who was the MEC for Agriculture for the Mpumalanga government at that time. They were saying that, look, the land that we were occupying was under claim, or rather should be given to land claimants. Can you tell us a bit about that? Did you find that the land was gazetted when you bought it, or it was not gazetted and it was not under claim?
Look, see, where we did our homework. At that point in time, land claims were a big issue in South Africa. So we first did our due diligence, and what we discovered was that the land was under the control of the Swazi people in 1800s through the Mafakane. And, the Pedi who was there originally were driven out, and there was a lot of land contestation. And the Zulu people were threatening the Swazis. So when the original Voortrekkers came, King Mswati, his father, saw that as an opportunity to settle them in that area on the condition that they would act like a buffer to guarantee that they wouldn't be attacked. And it actually worked. But in 1885 to 1886, many, many years before the Land Act came into the 1913 cut-off date, the land was already cut off, and the Zuid-Afrikaanse government actually bought the land, and they paid for it in cattle. So there was no issue. We got Richard Spoor, who's a well-known human rights attorney, to advise us, and we were told that there was no claim of land ownership. But we did recognize the fact that there were labor tenants who were working for the farmers, and you had to be compensated in one way or another. And we actually cut out large portions of the farms and gave them to people. And helped them build their houses. And many of those people to this day have not been compensated. But the actual land claims covering the exact areas of these big farms was definitely a fraud. And in the judgment, the judge sets out the historical relevance of all of this. So it's fairly simple that labor tenants would settle for a smaller amount, where they grazed the cattle and their vegetables. And the government should have compensated them, which they didn't. And they rather opted for the land ownership, which was a fraud.
Okay. Yeah. And
then, of course, the scam of inflating the land prices and so selling them to the Ndwandwe Trust, which was at that stage hijacked. By 2014, the land was actually taken from the Ndwandwe Trust and put back into the government. And, that was through a court process. When they realized that these beneficiaries, I think there were 9,000 people who lived in Badplaas at that stage, and they came up with 30,000 beneficiaries, which is clearly fraudulent. And when you looked at the ID numbers, they didn't make any sense. Some of them were duplicated, some were fraudulent. So it's definitely a big scam. And the purpose of that was to exploit the land. And what Ernst & Young discovered was that Visagie was the architect of the land scam, but he was acting for politicians. And what they would do is they would buy the land inflated, make these large, obscene amounts of money up front. And then they would rent the land back for nothing. And the people actually didn't benefit from it. They just became slaves working for Visagie. And he rented the land. He never paid them. But he also made money from subcontracting it out to bigger companies like McCain's. So it was a fraud in every which way you looked at it. It was designed to enrich a few people at the expense of the majority.
Exactly. And do you think that's where your problem started now? Well, having this hostility coming from politicians and even from Thandeka Mabuza was the MEC for Agriculture at that time.
That's the sole origin of the hostilities, is the land grab and the fraud that was behind that. They wanted me out the way because I exposed it. And they didn't like what I exposed, and they wanted to continue with it. And they were very upset that their lucrative scam was interrupted. So I made big enemies by trying to, sort that out. And I didn't realize how high up it went.
When did you realize that really it went really high up?
Well, I think by 2008, Mabuza started appearing on the scene. And he phoned me and he actually said to me that he can't protect me and I must sell the land. And then the next minute there was these mobs that were bust in from Middelburg. They didn't even belong in Badplaas. And you had all these strange people cutting fences. And you had this committee set up by Pro Causa. And who was a Badplaas politician. And by Mabuza, who was apparently the chairman. And from that day, these mobs were utilized and basically called up to disrupt the business and cut the fences, and it never really recovered after that. But he became very much involved. And then we discovered, by 2014, that his wife was actually selling large tracts of land to, she was part of Pam Golding. And she made 5 million rand, and that's unlawful. If you're selling, you can't have an estate agent selling land for restitution. And she did that. She sold the Southlands for a large sum of money.
Okay.
And we also discovered that Mabuza had taken over all the files from the Parks Board, and he was actually directing the litigation.
Okay. You mentioned one politician, Pro Causa. I think he was a councillor of the ANC at that time in the Albert Luthuli municipality. He's now with Floyd Shivambu's Maibuya Africa. You mentioned his name there as being one of the people, the leaders of this chaos that was happening there. I spoke to him. He said to me, "You were a monster."
Well, I mean, that's part of the findings of there were the 40 witnesses that came to court, and not one of the government witnesses talked badly of me. In fact, many of the witnesses talked very highly of the project and highly of my capabilities and my passion.
Yeah.
The scientists and the people, and especially some of the ex-CEOs like Charles Ndabeni and Jacques Marapani, who were ex-CEOs of the Parks Board.
Yes.
And it came out very clearly that there was this false narrative. And it's, upsetting that he's still, because, they had this narrative that we're feeding people, occupiers to lions. And I mean, any rational person will know that at that stage we didn't even have lions. So they just fabricated all of these stories.
Yes.
But the judge has made it very clear that all these stories of me being a racist and were all false. And as I said, of the 40 witnesses, not one of them actually talked badly of me in the High Court when they were under oath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so let's go to your business now. Okay, as these people start to march to your property, they intimidate you. What do you do at that stage? Because I think it started, but then you stayed a bit longer still, up until maybe 2013, 2014, when you decided to leave.
Well, we only decided to leave by 2019, out of the area.
2019, yeah.
But we always thought that the government will come to their senses and they would support the business. Because that's what government should do. Government and private business have to work together, and there has to be a lot of trust. In fact, if I can, read Predator Politics was a book that was done by Rihanna Rousseau. And what's very interesting is this book was never challenged by Mabuza. One would have thought that he would have interdicted the book.
He didn't.
And he didn't, because it was too damning and the facts were too clear.
Yeah.
But Nelson Mandela made a speech at the African Regional Workshop of the International Ombudsman in 1996.
Yeah.
And he said, our experience has made it acutely aware of the possible dangers of a government that is neither transparent nor accountable. To this end, our constitution contains several mechanisms to ensure the government will not be part of the problem, but part of the solution. Now, when you look at this judgment that is done by the High Court, there's a few things that jump out of this. For example, on page 129, the judge talks about the cruelty to the animals. Now, the Parks Board, which is supposed to be people who are looking after your animals, have shown a remarkable cruelty. And he said that unjustifiable on any conceivable legal or moral basis. And that's just something that bothered me, is how cruel these Parks Board officials were in their dealings with the project. And then the judge also said that these officials were in effect a law unto themselves. Now, how can a government be part of the solution if they think they're the law and they can do what they want to? And then another place, this is quite a damning judgment. And it says here, Mr. Daniel's response at every turn was to try and negotiate a way out of the impasse that had developed. And when that failed, either approached the courts or eventually had to walk away from the project. First in May 2008, when I had to sell Nkomazi, and then later in 2019, when I realized that they were gunning for me at Travelport. And it wasn't safe to be there anymore. There's a saying that says there comes a time when you give up, not because you're giving up, but because you're getting nowhere. And that's what we felt. We just felt that we're hitting this brick wall. And then it goes further to say that the political decision makers in the province refused even to negotiate with Mr. Daniel. Now, one would wonder why a transparent government would do that, because surely it's in the interest of everybody to negotiate, to mediate, to mitigate. And then it says the conduct of the politicians I've named, which obviously is Mabuza and pro causa, that he could not protect Mr. Daniel from the mob violence unless he sold the project. So there we go to the heart of the land scam. And then we proved a collusive agreement that existed between the MTPA, the Regional Land Claims Commissioner, and the government of Mpumalanga as a whole, as well as the MSC for Agriculture and Land Affairs and the seventh defendant. Now, what's very upsetting is the judge said on page 162, this was no single act by a single state actor. It was a concerted campaign over several years by members of the executive in the province in league with high officials in at least two organs of state, which, by the public powers vested in them by law, were in a unique position to intimidate Mr. Daniel and frustrate the realization of his dream. They enlisted in their scheme a criminal mob and instructed the South African police to stand aside while the mob did its work. These state actors banded together to defeat a third great goal of the adoption of the Constitution as articulated in the preamble, to improve the quality of the life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. So by doing this, they actually, as Mandela said, that the Constitution would guarantee that the government would not be part of the problem but part of the solution. And here they defeated the Constitution. And then the last bit, it says that they used members of the executive as their proxies to break the law and to, through a threat of mob violence and actual physical injury to property. I believe it is no exaggeration to say weaponized numerous aspects of law enforcement and regulatory mechanisms in the province to persecute one man and frustrate his entirely lawful and indeed admirable dream. Now, can you get worse than a government weaponizing the police, weaponizing the hawks, weaponizing law enforcement, and weaponizing permits? And that's how far these people went.
Exactly, because the judgment is clear that sometimes when these people were marching on your property, the police were instructed not to be there.
Exactly.
I mean, which is really unheard of.
Well, it's very dangerous for a constitutional democracy to have that. I mean, we're talking about the rights of every citizen. This could have happened to anybody, not just me, anybody who had that project. Or in fact, if we didn't stand up, these people could continue and do it to the private citizens. And it's like a government putting a target on your back.
Exactly. Yeah. And the MTPA, just for people who do not know, their officials had a big role in frustrating you as well. After these land people who were claiming the land, then the MTPA was invited as well to join in and continue to harass you. If you can explain a little bit the MTPA's role.
Well, as the judge said, that the institutional mechanisms were weaponized, which means that your permits that you need and apply for on merit were withheld and weaponized to make. And, the reason they wanted me out the picture was because of blowing the whistle on this land scam. That was always the problem. And to this day, the police dockets have been squashed, which is even worse. When all these police dockets and all these, nobody has been held accountable for this.
Is it?
So we had a situation where instructions were given to the MTPA, specifically Jan Miller, who's head of permits, not to issue certain permits, which crippled the project. And that's in that way they weaponized that very important function.
Okay. And the aim was to establish this big 5 game reserve, right, in the lane. So whatsoever animal you wanted to bring in, or lions whatsoever, then they wouldn't give you the permits, which that was the backbone of the business, the big 5 being there.
Exactly. And the reserve had the big 5 previously. And to do your marketing and to get very high room rates, which translate into good jobs like game rangers, cooks, hospitality managers.
Yes.
Much better than just laborers.
Yes.
That pick fruit and stuff. You're looking at a whole new quality of jobs.
Yeah.
And then you're also looking at the high-end tourism,
Yes.
where people are paying a fortune to come and look at your heritage.
Yes.
And it's also returning the heritage that we're all proud of. You don't have lions in America and Europe. They're exclusive to Africa.
Yes.
And if you can bring them back and make money for the communities,
Yes.
generate money in income tax and foreign exchange, that is really the answer.
Exactly.
But you need the government to work with you. It's like withholding your ID book, or stopping you from being a journalist.
Yes.
I mean, we've heard horrible stories about the pressure that's been put on journalists, and in many ways they weaponized that as well.
Yeah. Because beside the game reserve, I mean, you had other smaller businesses. I think there was a restaurant there, there was a filling station there, there was a museum of what do you call this, vintage?
Yeah, there's an interpretation
cars.
center.
Yeah, all those,
which is very important.
Yeah. So I'm thinking so many people lost jobs by your departure from
definitely. And then there was that indigenous nursery and the conference center, the weddings, and the sanctuary where we had I remember years after we left Travelport, the schools used to still phone me and say they want to bring the kids, because there's nothing more heartwarming than to see a bus full of kids arriving and being introduced to animals.
To land.
And that's what we offered. And we had buses coming, and that all came to a grinding halt. So where do the kids go now if they want to be exposed to wildlife and animals? There's not really. And the place was so central, being Badplaas. It's equally from Nelspruit and Ermelo and Witbank and even Swaziland. You could, it's an hour's drive from each of those places. So it's extremely central.
Yeah. And do you remember how many jobs were lost, and also investment that we had put in the area and future investment? Do you have such figures?
Well, the investment was hundreds of millions of investment, and as I said, the actual revenue that was lost was at least 35 billion. It would have gone to the area, and I think in total, with all the different businesses that fed off at least 1,000 jobs, which is significant, because if you take the families, that could be up to 10,000 people, depending on how big the families are.
Exactly.
So, and tourism is renowned for bringing in, a lot of revenue and creating decent jobs that are different to just being a, labor on a farm.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you protected the biodiversity and the treasures of the area, which is now collapsed.
Yeah.
And I'm also talking about the Masoli village.
Yeah.
That would have, that had a golf course. That would have been a prime village, and that would have fed people into Songamvelo.
Yeah.
And we're looking at Saul Kersner, who built Sun City, who would have operated that. And the ruler of Dubai. Yeah. So all these people were pushed out the area because of this.
Yeah, like really big people were interested in investing there.
Yeah. And the judge described the conduct as wicked. Because if you're weaponizing your very service delivery.
Yeah.
And why did they do it? Is to divert money from service delivery to their own pockets. Yeah. So that was a motive to buy power and then keep power. That was what this is all about. Yeah. And they used the land reform as the main thing to buy up large tracts of land and then keep the rent of that in their pockets at the expense of the people. But it didn't end there. As I said, it carried on to the permits and to many other things.
Exactly. In that era, interestingly, President Cyril Ramaphosa, before he became president, but he already owned the farm there. I think that's where he breeds the Ankole.
It's very sad for me, because during all this time with the land scam, he never once came there to try and intervene. And one would think that if he's a neighbor, we're all interested in keeping the area. And he never intervened or showed any interest in the area. And he watched from his farm how all these businesses collapsed. And that always, puzzled me, why somebody with an interest in the area with beautiful cattle wouldn't intervene and try and solve the problem.
Yeah, that was really bad. But now, for you, as I said, you did stick around, try to resolve the problem, try to talk sense into our government, but they didn't listen. What was the last straw for you to decide to pack your bags and just leave the area?
Well, the last straw was when the crime intelligence created that fake niece for Mabuza. And we know that they were involved because the Hawks discovered that she was paid 750,000 into a bank account. And then she said it was from the lottery. She won at Witbank, and when they went to check, there was nothing. And Captain Matipi, who actually discovered it, he was assassinated a few years later. I'm not sure for what, but being crime intelligence. But he told me that they discovered this, and the moment the police discovered that, they seemed to back off. And all these dockets that have been opened up by different people, whether it's Robert Nkosi or Paul O'Sullivan or myself, were all squashed, which is another alarming thing, because one would assume the police are independent. And in this case, clearly there was a political hand.
No, let's stick to Thandeka Mabuza a bit, because most people will never know the background. How did she come into the picture?
Well, she phoned me one day, and she warned me that she said she was Mabuza's niece, and she's the only person allowed in his study, and she saw a list of assassinations, and I was on the list. And there were two people that actually named them from Paula, which is the place Mabuza comes from. And they were on their way to assassinate her. So that obviously created a big problem. And it appeared to us that the whole scheme was to create this false affidavit, and then either to charge me, she disappeared. Either to charge me for treason and say, look, I've fabricated this and I drew it up. Alternatively, to draw me to a place like Millie's and then assassinate me with that affidavit. And then they got rid of me. And then because during that time, I also got correspondence from the prison, Zonnewater, with people saying they could solve problems and they had access to dockets. And if I paid them, with that, what do you call it, that wallet thing?
Wallet.
E-wallet. And obviously we didn't fall for that. But imagine if they suddenly assassinated me and they've got that affidavit and this woman disappeared. But how we discovered her was she couldn't get hold of me initially. So she was so desperate to get hold of me, because obviously the plan was to be implemented, that she went to the DA's offices in Nelspruit. And then the woman there that interviewed her actually took her number, and I think they actually drove to your house. Because they went on the internet and they saw the protection order and they phoned you, and then they went to, because it was so serious. But during that process, to try and get hold of me, and I think you still phoned me and said to me, this woman is trying to get hold of me.
I did.
And then I phoned her because I was unavailable during the afternoon. But that's how desperate they were to implement the plan. And then, it seemed... and that was the last straw, because Sullivan told me that it's not going to end, I must leave the province. And Dr. Bryanston, who is a chief psychiatrist, also advised me that this is not going to end. And I mean, I can see it today after all these years running 2 trials, spending all this money, getting the judgment. It still carries on and on. There's no end to...
Exactly. And by the time this Thandeka Mabuza character appeared, you had already started in the lawsuit against the government.
Oh yeah, the lawsuit was started in 2010.
Yeah.
And they were losing a lawsuit because I had already won a whole lot of urgent applications.
Yeah.
I think there's 22 applications that I won over the years.
Yeah.
Because we always approached the law and we always won. But in 2019, she came on the scene. But it was all part of another plan, which was very sophisticated, and it really scared us because of the involvement of crime intelligence.
Yeah.
Which was at a very high level.
Yeah.
And the money's involved. It became very scary. And then we realized that this was quite a serious issue. By that time, there had been 3 assassination attempts.
Yeah.
The one was when we were warned, I think it was a lady called Namfuso.
Okay.
Who said that, not Namfuso, I can't remember her name now, that if we went to the Spur in Badplaas, they had planned to poison us there. And she was beside herself, and we never went back there. And then once at the magistrate's court, when we had the protection orders, the wheel was loosened. And we discovered that for 70 rand, you can buy the spanner. You just roll under the wheel and unlock it. And it was supposed to fall off down the pass. And then you jackknife, because if your front wheel falls off. And when I got to Travelport and I did a 3-point turn, the wheel fell off. And it's impossible for that wheel to fall off by itself. It's engineered like that. And then the third time was with this Thandeka Mabuza. And the way we discovered is we got a car registration. And then we actually found out that she was a real woman and she had worked for the Department of Education. And then we managed to get hold of her. And, and then we found out, because initially she told us she was Thandeka, but eventually we found out she was a complete different name. She was a fake.
Okay. And did you ever lay any charges against her?
We did lay charges. We laid very serious charges, but they never went anywhere. They were also squashed.
That's bad. And when you came into Badplaas, you probably might have heard about assassinations in the province that were taking place. Did you pick that up, or you went there?
No,
we are not aware of anything.
When we were in Badplaas, as I said, we did a due diligence on the ecology and the potential for the Big Five, and then on the land claims. But we never did I was unaware of the assassinations. And it was only in 2008 when the mob started coming and when we were threatened, then Mabuza came on the scene, that we learned about that. But then we had already invested so much. And when you invest in a dream and a vision that you implement, it takes you years and years. This is not a one-day project. You can't just up and go. You take a massive knock. So we tried to, we thought that somewhere along the line, as you go up the ladder, somebody would have sense to intervene, and nobody ever did. It just got worse and worse.
That was the problem. So now you got into this lengthy litigation with the government. I don't know how you did it, but most people would give up, get stressed, get sick. Obviously, you were mentioning that you were attending even sessions just for you to be, for your well-being, because I can imagine it's very stressful. And it's been a tendency of government just to lock people into lengthy litigation so that they run out of money and they end up giving up. That's their strategy.
Well, it's
how
a very
did you survive
wicked
this
strategy, because as I said, Mandela made it clear that the Constitution is there the government has to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And when you are locking people into litigation and you're fighting long legal battles and spending taxpayers' money, and you refuse to mediate, you refuse to negotiate, you refuse to even look at your own forensic report, you sweep that under the carpet, then you become a problem. And that is why when we look at Badplaas and we see the collapsed businesses, we see the consequences of that behavior.
It's really, really bad. And at some point, I remember there was Coca-Cola wanted to invest there and they had to pull out.
Yeah, Coca-Cola and the IDC, or the UFF, the IDC. And you must know when the IDC, which is government-owned, find it too risky, then it's a problem.
Then it's a big, big problem. Yeah. Okay, eventually, this year, there was finality to the litigation. The court judges in your favor. The courts awards damages in favor of yourself. It's almost, maybe they are appealing now. I'm not sure. But it's been a long way for you. What did you have to do all these years? Obviously, it's the main thing that has been preoccupying you, thinking about it every day and night, obviously. How did you go through this process so many years?
Well, it's very difficult, but you have to finish off what you started. And, when your reputation gets attacked, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing attacking your business.
Yes.
But they attacked my reputation and they accused me of these. They created a false narrative. So I'm now vindicated. And, from the government's own witnesses, it's all proved false.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much a story of state capture where few politicians have captured organs of state, like the Parks Board, who are supposed to provide a service to the public. And I can't think of anything more wicked than when civil servants who are supposed to work for the public actually weaponize service delivery.
Exactly.
There's nothing worse than that.
And how far did that damage on your persona go? Because I remember at one stage I was interviewing you, said they were making you a polecat or a skunk in the area.
Well, the thing is, you could never do business with anybody because everybody that wants to do business is worried about that. Because, you've got policemen, you've got prosecutors, government officials saying these things. And people, there was a time when the word of policeman was very serious. But even with the narrative that they were spinning, it had a massive impact on my ability to do business, my ability to, and there was other consequences, like they stopped the buses from coming to Travelport, and there was always a problem. I mean, it's like pushing an elephant upstairs. Very difficult,
very tough.
But now that has all changed because the judgment has vindicated me of all of that.
Well, it's an obvious question, but I'll have to ask you, how do you feel about this case being finalized? How do you feel right now?
Well, it's not quite final. The trial is finalized. I mean, the trial is now finished, and especially when we ran the first trial during COVID, it was a virtual trial. We spent all the money, almost 100 days, which is unheard of. We ran the trial, and then we finished the trial, and they put one witness on, and then the judge became ill. So we had to redo the trial. And I mean, there's not many, I think 80% of all court cases never finish because people run out of money. And here we had to run two massively long trials. And these advocates that run the trial make a lot of money, 150,000 a day of taxpayers' money. So they've got absolutely no incentive to settle the matter or to talk sense, because it's an adversarial system in South Africa, where the more conflict they create, the more money they make. And it's such a sad situation because, once again, you're not solving any problems, you're just creating conflict. But obviously I'm thrilled by the judgment, and I'm thrilled by the fact that the trial is finally finished. And especially the fact that almost 40 witnesses gave evidence under oath. And the one thing that stands out very, very clearly is how politicians captured against the service delivery, and then how they failed after all these years to create this fake narrative. Now, that's also very sad when your government that you're supposed to trust is putting a target on your back, because there's nothing worse. Because you want to work with your government, you want to cooperate with them. You don't want to fight with your government. So all that is left now is they will appeal, because these guys are going to carry on. I think it's more political than legal. And the claim is now running more interest. So every month it goes past, it's it's 11.5% interest. So up to now, the more interest stopped, but the moment there's judgment, it started running again. So it's going to be a very costly process for the government, and it won't be difficult. The appeal is quite a straightforward process. There's no trial. And they have to give reasons, and we're looking forward to have the appeal finished.
But it doesn't bother some people because they are not paying out of their pockets.
That's a problem.
You are the only victim here. We've got to pay out of your pocket. But obviously, more drove you to fight this, more than the money that you lost. What would you say drove you to fight this till the end?
Sorry?
I'm saying, other than the money that you lost in the business, what drove you to fight this case until to the end?
Money, for people like me, it's not always the money. It's a passion and the vision, and to be able to do something that can leave a legacy. And all that has been destroyed. So the worst thing is they've stolen your dreams. And as the judge put it, a perfectly lawful project has been scuppered and destroyed. But when you look at the Masoli village in Songavela and you see to what extent these incredible, there was a time when government, the JICA report, said that area had the most potential of the whole of South African tourism. And none of that potential has been realized. It's just been driven into the ground. So that's the saddest part of all.
That's very sad. Hopefully the appeal goes your way and you are able to close this chapter. It's been long.
Definitely. And one would have expected that after all these forensic audits by government, showing the land grab and the judgments, which go back to 2014, with various judgments in the High Court there and this judgment, that by now somebody would apologize and say, look, there's been a problem here. But they don't. They just continue and and there's been no accountability whatsoever. Which is really a big problem. Nobody's being held to account. Taxpayers' money, which should have been used to do other things that will benefit the whole community, is being spent on a lengthy litigation against an individual business person. So I should have given up a long time ago, and I should have, like most people, move on. But as I said, it was such a beautiful opportunity, and we were so invested into, because I didn't start this in 1999. I already thought about the vision in 1992, 10 years before, and we were planning it carefully. There's a huge ecological crisis in the world. With animals going extinct and nature being, with global warming. So the very support systems that we rely on have become unstable. And we thought that we looked all over Southern Africa for a project, and we eventually found that one. And that's why it took so long for me to give up. And to eventually driven out of the area. And, I should probably have given up a long time ago. And, you spend the best part of your life fighting something. But we never thought it went up so high. But
your your passion for conservation, did it die with your experiences in Mpumalanga, or you decided to move to another place and just continue with the same
Well, it
idea?
definitely hasn't died. I mean, that passion is still very fierce, but, one gets older and it's very difficult to start a project of that scale because it's very risky.
Yeah.
But maybe there's other opportunities that we're looking at where one can, because, you gain a vast amount of experience doing that.
Okay.
And there's not many people that can put a whole area on the map.
Yeah.
But, Saul Kersner's died and a lot of opportunities have been lost. I don't know what that area where it'll go in the future.
Yeah.
But at this stage, it looks like it's pretty much in a mess, the tourism. It looks like it's collapsed, totally collapsed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's your platform. If you've got something else to add I didn't ask, you are welcome to. But I've exhausted all my questions.
No, I think that's all. I really appreciate you asking me to come on this platform.
Yeah.
Especially that you were the one that actually exposed the very scam in 2004 already.
Yeah. Had
they acted, I think they fired the Land Claims Commissioner, but not much else happened. It just carried on.
Yeah, not much happened after that.
And over the years it got exposed, but everybody's just turned a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
And it got worse. But I don't think there's anything else.
Okay. No, thanks a lot for making time and just to explain a little bit about this lengthy litigation, probably the most expensive the province has ever experienced. I can't remember of any. Yeah, the MTPA, which is struggling now, money from there needs to be paid towards you and also the Land Claims Commission of Mpumalanga. So it's money that should be directed to settling more people, buying land for more people. But here we are. Yeah.
No, that's very sad.
Very sad. But thanks a lot for making time, Fred.
Thanks, Sizwe. I appreciate it.
Yeah.